So we are discussing the offer curve, right? So offer curve we have just introduced. So if you have any problem with the concept of offer curve, you can ask now. Do you have any problem with offer curve? Offer curve was a combination of export and import of a country given the balance of trade in the economy. Okay, that means the value of export is equal to value of import along the offer curve. Basically that part I discussed, and yes, offer curve is upward rising, but in special case it may be backward bending. Can you tell me what was the reason behind the backward bending offer curve? I discussed it in the class, so I'm just asking why offer curve is backward bending. No one can remember. Offer curve is backward bending if import is inelastic in demand. Okay, import elasticity is less than 1. That was the reason behind the backward bending offer curve. Can you remember now?
Yes, ma'am.
So here we are going to discuss about the international equilibrium. I told in that class that I need offer curve to find out the international equilibrium, or rather international terms of trade. So offer curve is precisely helping us to do that. So here we are getting this thing. Look, what we are measuring. We are measuring on the horizontal axis. We are measuring. Look, there are two countries. One is home, another is foreign. So export of home country is import of foreign country. Okay. Export of home country is the import of foreign country. So we are measuring these two on the horizontal axis. Huh? I just want to explain it in terms of commodity. What I am exporting, this is your import. But I'm not telling you everywhere the amount of export of the home country is equal to the amount of import of the foreign country. No, that will be the equilibrium. But say I am exporting tea, that means you are importing tea. Okay, so in terms of commodity, the same commodity which I am exporting, you are importing. And just opposite on the vertical axis. On the vertical axis, what is import of the home country is the export of the foreign country. Okay, so these things are there along the axis. And as we discussed, this is the offer curve. There are two brown lines actually. The reddish brown, this one, offer curve of home country. And as we are measuring export, look, what is the shape of the offer curve of the home country? It is convex to the axis where we are measuring the export, right? Here we are measuring export of the home country. So the offer curve of the home country is convex to the horizontal axis. Now, as we are measuring export of the foreign country on the vertical axis, so the offer curve of the foreign country, that is convex to the vertical axis. Okay. So look, this, it looks beautiful, na? This like a decoration type of thing. So this dark brown line, this is the offer curve of the foreign country, and the reddish brown line, this is the offer curve of the home country. Now these two offer curves are intersecting at certain point. Look, here we are not discussing about the backward bending for the time being. We will discuss, but right now we are not discussing because we are just started from the simple situation. So this E is the equilibrium point because, as I said, the amount of export may not be amount of import for all the terms of trade. But at this particular point, the amount of export by the home country is equal to the amount of import of the foreign country. That is why they are intersecting each other. Okay. Now, if you take any value of export, say here, look at my cursor, say my export of the home country is here. So, home is exporting this much. Look, home is exporting this much and foreign is importing this much. Okay, the demand of this commodity by the foreign country is this much, right? So there is a gap between supply and demand of the commodity, and there is excess demand, right? And if there is excess demand, then price will rise. And this is also true for this commodity also. And this is why your terms of trade initially set is here. Now it is moving and moving. Ultimately, you are getting that yellow line which is going through this intersection point E. So, what is the speciality of this intersection point E? At this intersection point, your value of export is equal to the, rather your volume of export is equal to the volume of import. Okay, so this is point E is the international equilibrium. Point E is the international equilibrium, and the line which is passing through this point E is called terms of trade. Okay, so now ask me your problem from this diagram. If you have any problem in this diagram, you are free to ask now.
Ma'am, how do we get that yellow line?
This is the terms of trade line. This is a line showing the price of export and price of the ratio of price of export and import of the home country. Okay, and as price of export is given, price of import is also given, and so it is upward rising. The price line, that simple price line, as the line which we get in case of PPC. In case of PPC, we are getting the price line like this.
Yes, ma'am.
And here it is upward rising. As it is export and import. Now look, what is the amount of export? Export means your production minus consumption, right? And the amount of import is your consumption minus production. So it is not the production level we are measuring here. So it is the difference between the production and consumption. That is why the price line is upward rising, not that downward sloping line. Let me show you.
And ma'am, can you explain the part beyond E?
Yes, here.
Yes, ma'am.
In this section, look, offer curve of foreign is here. So take any export of home country like this. So for this section, the export of home country is greater than import of foreign. That means supply is more than demand, right? Supply of the exportable of the home country is more than demand for exportable by the foreign country. Okay, in that case, it is excess supply, and if there is excess supply, then what will happen? If there is excess supply, then price will fall, and ultimately you will get this equilibrium again. The quantity supply will also fall, and if price is falling, the demand is rising. Look, if there is excess supply, the price is trying to fall, and if it is, then supply will rise, supply will fall, and demand will rise, and ultimately you will come back to this E. Okay. So, and
Okay, ma'am.
we will explain this E is actually the stable one, but that we will explain with some another diagram.
Okay, ma'am.
Now look, here I'm trying to give your answer here. Look, this diagram is drawn, you can understand this is drawn by me. The thing is multiple equilibrium and stability. As I said that equilibrium is stable, then how can you find out whether this equilibrium is stable or not? So this diagram is helping you to do that. Look, the same thing. This is your equilibrium E. Two of our curves are there, everything is same. Only addition is two terms of trade line. The first terms of trade line is little bit flatter than the international terms of trade line T star, and it is T dash. And one is there which is steeper, that is T double dash. Now what happens at T dash? If terms of trade is, there is no hard and fast rule that okay, T star should be there always. No, there may be any terms of trade initially. If the terms of trade is T dash, then what will happen? Let me draw the lines, then you can understand better. If terms of trade line is T dash, remember the terms of trade line is T dash, then the amount of export of the commodity is along the offer curve of the home country. right? And the amount of demand for the same commodity is along the offer curve of the foreign country. It's here. Do you get the point? For a single commodity, this is the demand and this is the supply. Okay. For the same commodity, that means what I am exporting, you are importing this. So for the same commodity, I am exporting this much, and you are trying to get this much. Your demand is here. So it is the case of what? Demand is here, supply is here. So it is the case of excess.
Demand.
No, supply. Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. Yes, it is the case of excess demand. Demand is here, supply is here, so it is the case of excess demand. And if there is excess demand, we know what will happen. The price will rise. Right? Price of what? Price of exportable. The relative price of exportable. So this is px by py, and if it will rise, then this line will be steeper. Now the t dash is moving to t star. Okay. So at the T star, you are getting this intersection where the volume of export is equal to volume of import. So it is stable. So what is the conclusion? If we leave this point E and come back to the any point along this T dash, we can go back to our equilibrium. Okay. If we leave the equilibrium point E and we are coming any point on T dash or below the T star, then the system is forcing us to go back to E. So equilibrium E is a stable equilibrium. On the other hand, if your terms of trade is T double dash, if your terms of trade is T double dash, then the amount of export is here. Look, amount of export is here. It's like that. Hmm. And amount of import is along the foreign offer curve, so it is here. Just opposite. It is the case of excess supply. And if excess supply is there, price of exportable will fall. That is px by py, that will fall. And if it will fall, then t double dash will come to the t star. And this is how, if you leave T star, maybe to T dash or to T double dash, you have to come back to T star, that is at equilibrium E. So what is our conclusion? That equilibrium is a stable equilibrium. Okay, so this diagram is okay on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? If you have any query? Okay, now I am coming to another diagram. The diagram is very beautiful. Look at this diagram. This diagram, you can find it in your textbook. Maybe the notations are different, but this type of diagram is very common. Now look, what is the speciality? Here, both offer curves are backward bending. This is the speciality. This is the offer curve of the home country, which is backward bending. Look, this is the offer curve of the home country. This one. This one, AJ. Offer curve of home country. This is the offer curve of the home country. And this is the offer curve of the foreign country, which is also backward bending. Okay, so both offer curves are backward bending and they are intersecting each other at different points. So these points are called E1, E2, E3. So we can get three equilibrium points if both are backward bending. This is another extreme case. It may possible that one is upward rising, one is backward bending. Then you will get two equilibrium points. But here we are considering the extreme case where both are backward bending. And if both are backward bending, then we can get three equilibrium points, E1, E2, and E3. The question is whether all the equilibrium points are stable or not, because the economy is not interested to go to the unstable equilibrium. Okay, so which one is stable? That is the question. Now look, if you remember, if you consider E2, what is the speciality of E2? At E2, both offer curves are backward bending. The speciality of E2 is the equilibrium corresponding to backward bending offer curve of both the countries. Now we have to check whether E2 is a stable one or not. The same thing we will do. we just take one terms of trade which is below the T2. These things are actually, uh, this is the, what can I say? This is my mistake of taking the snapshot. It should be something, the diagram should be a little lower. But anyway, look at this terms of trade T2 dash. So at T2 dash, try to understand. At T2 dash, your export. Export is along the offer curve of the home country, so it is here. Okay, and the import is here. So let me draw the lines. This is the amount of export at T2 dash. This is the amount of export and this is the amount of import. So, right? This is the amount of export and this is the amount of import. So tell me, what is the condition, excess demand or excess supply? This is export and this is import of same commodity. This is the export supply of the home country and this is the import demand of the foreign country. So
Excess supply.
excess supply, yes, excess supply. And if there is excess supply, then price will fall again. The relative price of the home country's exportable is falling again. So that means the terms of trade line will be flatter. It will not be steeper again. Okay, it will be flatter. So it is coming like this. It is moving in this direction. It is moving in this direction like this. Okay, the situation is in guiding that T2 dash to becoming more and more flatter. So that means once you leave that T2, once you leave that equilibrium E2, you cannot go back to E2. The market situation is telling you to deviate from E2 more and more. So that is, then what is the conclusion? E2 is an unstable equilibrium, right? So E2 is unstable equilibrium. The same thing will happen with T2 double dash. You can check it. Hmm. it the same conclusion will come out that E2 is the unstable equilibrium. Now, what about E1? E3 is a little bit clumsy already. So come to E1. For E1, if you take any terms of trade, which is, say it is here, the equilibrium terms of trade is T1 corresponding to E1, but take any terms of trade below E2. Say it is T2 double dash. Okay, this is T2 double dash actually. Okay, so take any terms of trade, say T2 double dash. Now for T2 double dash, what is the amount of export? The export is along the home country's offer curve. Okay, so this is the amount of export. And what is the amount of import? This is along the offer curve of the foreign country. So it is here. So this is the import demand and this is your export supply. Which one is more? This is your import demand and this is your excess supply, export supply. Okay, this is the demand for exportable. This is the supply of exportable. So which one is more? This is demand for exportable.
Demand is more.
Yes, this is supply of exportable. So it is the case of excess demand for home countries exportable. And that will encourage the price to rise. To clear the market, the price will rise. The price of exportable is rising. And if it is rising, then this terms of trade, how you can show this rising terms of trade? Then this terms of trade curve is moving like this, right? In this direction. Similarly, if you can take any terms of trade, so in this area, then this terms of trade will again come back to T1. So what is the conclusion? That once you leave E1, you can come back to E1 again. So E1 is the stable equilibrium. Okay, and the same logic is applicable for E3. So E3 is also, you can try, if you have your copy in your hand with a pen, so you can just draw and check. E3 is also a stable equilibrium. So, look, what is the speciality of this total discussion? The thing is, if both offer curves, first of all, if both offer curves are upward rising like this, if both offer curves are upward rising, the equilibrium is stable. That is discussed. If one of the offer curve is backward bending, then also the equilibrium is stable, right? Like E3 and E2, E1, sorry. At E3, foreign offer curve is backward bending. At E1, home offer curve is backward bending. But still, we have stable equilibrium. Hmm. But if both offer curves are backward bending, then the equilibrium is unstable. Okay, so this is the conclusion from these two diagrams. Okay, up to this point, is it okay?
Yes,
Please
ma'am.
ask. Please ask if you have any query. Please ask. Only one or three sounds are coming. I want to listen as many sound as possible. You have to talk. You have to understand because time is very limited.
Ma'am, why are we moving away from T2 to T2 dash? Like
T2
from the
to flash like this.
yes, ma'am. Any yes, ma'am.
No, actually, the T2 double dash is taken as an arbitrary point. Say initial position is T2 double dash. Then we have to check in which direction T2 double dash will move, whether it will come back to T2 or is going to the T1. The explanation, the discussion is showing that T2 double dash cannot come back to T2. T2 double dash is going towards T1. Okay, so
Okay, ma'am.
once you leave E2, as you cannot come back to E2 again, so E2 is a unstable one. But if you leave E1 and coming any point on T2 double dash, you can go back to E1. So E1 is a stable one.
And ma'am, from even if we move away towards E2, so even if it is closer to E2, it will again come back to E1, not
Yes, 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 yes. Because you cannot go back E2 again. Every point is giving you the excess demand, and that will increase the price of your exportable. Every point within this range. Any point between E1 and E2, any point, any terms of trade is showing excess demand of your exportable, and that will increase the terms of trade and it will give you E1 again.
okay, ma'am.
Hmm. So this is how we are getting. So what is the conclusion? The diagram is beautiful. You can explain it very logically and everything is okay. But what is the conclusion? The conclusion is if both offer curves are upward rising, the equilibrium is we are sure that equilibrium is stable. If one of the offer curves is backward bending, still our equilibrium is stable. But if both of our curves are backward bending, then the equilibrium is unstable. That is the conclusion. Now, what is the reason behind the backward bending one? The reason is import inelasticity, right? So here, in this case, import is elastic. That is why offer curves are upward rising. For both the countries, imports are elastic by nature. But here, one, for example, in case of E1, the import elasticity of the for home country is less than 1, right? For E3, the import elasticity of the foreign country is less than 1. And at E2, import elasticity of both countries are less than 1. Because both are backward bending now. So import elasticity, there is a relation. We can conclude that there is a relation between import elasticity and the stability in the international market. Do you get my point? We are just trying to get a conclusion that there is a relationship between import elasticity of demand for different countries and international equilibrium. বুঝতে পারলে কি বললাম?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what is the exact relation? What is the exact relationship? What is the nature of the relationship that I will discuss? And the name of this relationship is called the Marshall-Lerner condition. This is in our syllabus and I'm going to discuss it. But do you get the thing? How I am getting, why we need the Marshall-Lerner condition? What is the source of the Marshall-Lerner condition? The source is here. There is a relationship. I don't know what is the exact relation, but I can understand there is a relation between import elasticities of different countries and the international equilibrium. Because that backward bending is very important to find out whether the equilibrium is stable or not. Right? So, what is the exact relation? So, from this discussion of these two diagrams, we can understand that there is a relation. But what is the exact relation? So, that is here. This is called Marshall Lerner, first of all. This is called Marshall Lerner. Okay. I think you can see it. Try to read it. I am also reading it so that you can understand the mathematical derivation of the stability condition. What is that? Say there is excess demand for X in the world. That means in the international market, there is excess demand for commodity X. Okay. Say there is an excess demand for commodity. There are two commodities actually, X and M. So there is an excess demand for X for exportable of the home country. Okay. So if it is, so how can you write it? Look, XCH, that means X consumed by home country plus X consumed by foreign country. That is total consumption in the world for X is greater than X produced by the home country plus X produced by the foreign country. You cannot say that home country will not produce, or rather foreign country will not produce X. He is producing, but his demand is more than his production. That is why he is importing my exportable. But still, he is producing. So this is the inequality. The total consumption of X is greater than total production of X in the world. So tell me whether this first inequality is clear to you or not. This one. XCH plus XCF is greater than XPH plus XPF. P for production, C for consumption. H and F are two countries.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Now I'm just taking this side to that side and all. Then you are getting XCF minus XPF. So foreign country in one side and home country in another side. So what you are getting in your left hand side? XCF minus XPF. That means consumption is more than production. So that is why you are importing. Your consumption demand is more than your production level, so you have to import. So this is actually import. The left hand side is nothing but import of the foreign country. And XPH minus XCH, that means production minus consumption of the home country. This is export of the home country. So you are getting import of foreign country is greater than export of the home country. Okay. Why we are getting this? Because we assume that there is excess demand for X in the world. Okay. From that assumption, we are getting this simple inequality that import of F is greater than export of home. Okay. Now look, at the equilibrium, the volume of export is equal to volume of import for the home country, right? Because that is the balance of trade. We discussed it in your offer curve analysis that along the offer curve, there is balance of trade, that is volume of export is equal to volume of import. So Px into Xh is equal to Py into Mh. Y is the commodity which the country is importing, which the home country is importing. Okay, so Px into Xh is equal to Mh into Py. Do you get this equilibrium condition? Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Then XH, that is export of home country, is equal to, we are just writing small p as the terms of trade. Okay, so small p is what? Px by Py, price of exportable by price of importable, and this is written as small p, that is your terms of trade. So export of H is equal to import of H divided by P. So this is the relation between export and import in the home country with the help of the terms of trade. Now, as we assume there is excess demand for X, so excess demand is what? The gap between these two. The gap between the volume of import minus volume of export. So MF, remember, this is MF. That is the amount of import by the foreign country minus the amount of export of the home country in terms of price. That is XH. I'm just replacing. Actually, excess demand is what? Excess demand is MF minus XH. So XH is replaced by MH by P. Excess demand for my exportable is equal to like this. This is the excess demand. MF is greater than XH. So there is excess demand. So what is the level of excess demand? MF minus XH. So replace that XH by MH by P. Then you are getting ED is equal to MF minus MH by P. So everything in terms of importable. Tell me up to this point, is it okay? Take your time. No issue. Take your time and think.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Now, if there is excess demand, that means ED is greater than 0, then PX by PM, that should rise. Excess demand for your exportable is there. So the price of your exportable is rising. That is what written here. If ED is greater than 0, that means there is excess demand, then PX by PY should rise. But for stability, excess demand should come down to 0. Right. So when Px by Py is rising, excess demand should fall. Otherwise, you are not getting the stability. There is excess demand. Just try to remember the demand supply diagram. If there is excess demand, then price is rising. Why? Just to clear the excess demand, just to reduce the excess demand, and finally, excess demand will not there, and you are getting the equilibrium. Demand is equal to supply. Okay, so if Px by Py is rising, excess demand should fall, and then only you can say yes, that equilibrium is a stable equilibrium. Okay, so here we are getting, so the what is the stability condition? The stability condition is del Ed del P is less than 0. Up to this point, is it okay? This is very similar to your concept of same one, I think, that stability concept. Not so much mathematical, but this thing is discussed in your same one in demand supply chapter. Walrasian stability, Marshallian stability. Can you remember all those things? So the basic thing behind the stability is del X excess demand, del P should be less than 0. If this inequality is true, then the equilibrium is a stable. Otherwise, it will be unstable. So up to this point, is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
This is very known to you from your Walras and Marshallian stability situation. Now look, EF. EF is the absolute value of the elasticity of import demand in the foreign. Absolute value of the elasticity of import demand in the foreign. So their import demand. So how can you write it? Del DMF dP into P by MF. Okay, because their import is our export. So relative price of their importable is Px by Py, that is small p. That is why it is written as dP. Okay, so this is there. You may take some time. I will share this video with you. So just look at these slides and try to understand. You may need some more time to indulge, but anyway, it is very easy. So absolute value of the elasticity of import demand in foreign is dmf dp into p by mf. Why p? Because p is the price of their importable. Our exportable is their importable, right? And our exportable price is px by py. So their importable price is also px by py, that is small p. Now look at this. EH. EH EH is the absolute value of the elasticity of import demand in home. Okay, so it is written now. Look, DMA D1 by P. Okay, why 1 by P? Because it is home country's import. So price should be in terms of import. And what is home country? What a home country is importing? Y, right? So the price of the importable is Py by Px. So 1 by P. Okay, so that is what written as. So the change in price is here represented by 1 by P. Similarly, in the next term also 1 by P by MA. So if you just make it, 1 by P means differentiation of 1 by P means minus 1 by P square. So that P into dp, so that minus minus sign will cancel out, p square and p is there, so finally you are getting this neat condition, that is dma dp into p by ma without a negative sign. Because the negative sign is cancelled when you are differentiating 1 by p. Okay, so this is dma dp into p by ma. So the absolute value of the elasticity of import demand in foreign country is this. Absolute value of elasticity of import demand in home country is this. This thing is actually needed for the Marshall. So that is why we have introduced it. Now look at the next one. Again, I cannot go there. I don't know what happens sometimes. Yes. Now, the excess demand. Excess demand is MF minus MH by P. Look, this is your excess demand. Excess demand is MF minus MH by P. We already have it. So just write it here. And then differentiate with respect to P. Because you just try to find out the value of DEDDP. Look, because if DEDDP is less than 0, then only your equilibrium is called as a stable equilibrium. Okay, that is why we have to find out the value of DEDDP, and we have to check whether it is less than 0 or not. So DEDDP. Then you differentiate it with your formula. This is U by V formula. So just use it and you will get this. Now for stability, as I said, for stability, DEDDP should be less than 0. So your right hand side should be less than 0. So if you take this component to your right hand side, then it will be like this. Then divide both sides by MH. Then you will get this one. Now, at equilibrium, MF is equal to MH by P. Now, this thing you have to understand. At equilibrium, MF is equal to MH by P. MF is what? Import of foreign country. And this is what? This is actually my export. Home country's export. Right? MF is the import of foreign country, which is nothing but as it is equilibrium. So this is the export of the home country. So that XH is replaced by MF. Okay, so MF into MH by P. P is, P is PX by PY. So here you can multiply it with PX and here you are having the PY. Okay, so PX into X, actually the thing is, here, the thing is, where is my pen? I could not find it, I guess. So px, actually the sentence is like this, the px into xh, that is the export of the home country, is equal to py. Y is the commodity which the home country is importing, into import of foreign import of home country. Okay, because this is the equilibrium, value of export is equal to value of import. Now what you are doing, you are just replacing xh by mf, because this is equilibrium. Total amount of export of the home country is equal to the total value of import by the foreign country. As we are discussing only about the equilibrium, so you can replace xh by mf. Done. mf, and take this px to the right hand side. Then you can write it as m h m h divided by p x divided by py. Okay, so px by py is nothing but small p. So you can write this one. From here, you are getting this thing. Okay. Fine. So now we are just writing it in simple. P into MF is equal to MH. Hmm. So you just put this value P into, look where it is. P into MH, P, yes. Replace this MH by P into MF. Okay. Replace this MH in your left hand side by P into MF. Then you are getting this inequality. So everything in terms of M. Okay. Now look at the component which you have in your left hand side, dmf dp into p square by p, so it is p by mf. Hmm. dmf dp into p by mf, this is what, dmf dp into p by mf, this is minus of elasticity of import demand of the foreign country, right? So write it, minus of elasticity of the foreign country, and here this component is the elasticity of the home country. Look, elasticity of the home country. So again you are writing it minus 1. So again take left hand side, right hand side, this, that and all, you are getting look, now this is important, elasticity of home country plus elasticity of foreign country, the both with respect to their import. Import elasticity of the home country plus import elasticity of the foreign country is greater than 1. Uh, And if this is true, then we are getting stability, because from the stability condition we are deriving this, and finally we arrived here. Okay, so if this inequality is true, then our equilibrium is stable. And this inequality, that is sum total of import elasticity, is greater than 1. In short, you can say like this, sum total of import elasticity is greater than 1. Hmm. If it holds, and then this is your equilibrium is stable, and this inequality is called the Marshall-Lerner condition of stability at international equilibrium. Okay, so now tell me your problem from this derivation. This total derivation is 2-page derivation. Ask your question from here.
It's clear, ma'am.
Okay. So we derive the Marshall-Lerner condition. Now this is also there, standard trade model. This is also in our, let me check. Yes, this is the standard trade model. This is in our unit 2. So I think I should start it, and let me check how much I can cover. If I cannot cover the total, then I will continue in the next class. Okay. So what is standard trade model? Standard trade model, actually there is, look, this trade model is not given by Ricardo, not given by Hexavalin. Okay, this is just a standard trade model. Is trying to explain the reality a little bit lucidly as compared to Ricardo. Ricardo is very strict about his assumption. Only two countries, only one factor of production. PPF should be downwards sloping straight line. There should be complete specialization and all. Right. So the strict, the assumptions are very much strict, but the reality is not so strict and not so clear. Then standard trade model is trying to explain the reality more. Okay, so here what is or you can say what is the background behind the standard trade model. Okay, there is an increasing look. The first assumption, the increasing opportunity cost. So that PPF is concave. So here we are deviating from Ricardo. Okay, in case of Ricardo, the opportunity cost was constant and the PPF was a downward sloping straight line. But here we are relaxing that assumption that no, opportunity cost is increasing. So we are going to get our normal PPF. The test preference is there. Test and preference of the consumer is also here. And as consumers test and preference is considered, so we have the community indifference curve. Okay, as this is economy as a whole, so it is not possible to draw individual indifference curve. It will be the indifference curves representing the society. Okay? So the social indifference curve or community indifference curve. And it explains how the supply and demand helps to find out the market clearing price in the trade model. Okay, so this is the standard trade model. Let me go into it. Any problem between this introduction section? Standard trade model is trying to explain reality in a better way, well, not in a better way, in some different way as compared to Ricardo. It is trying to relax the assumptions of Ricardo. So the first relaxation is here that opportunity cost is increasing so that your PPF is concave. The second relaxation is there. The consumer's taste and preference is introduced so that the model can use the community indifference curve. Okay, and as PPF is what? PPF is the production, that means the supply side. And indifference curve is what? Indifference curve is your consumption, that is the demand side. So as you are introducing consumption and demand, production and consumption in the same model, so you can explain the market clearing price, that is the equilibrium price in the trade model with the help of the demand supply. Okay, so this is the background of the standard trade model. Tell me your problem from this introduction. If you have any doubt, any doubt here, please.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so PPF is concave, so the slope is called MRPT. We know that. So again, we are using our known concepts. Huh? Now the community indifference curve. This is something new for us because we never discuss about the social indifference curve. So look, what is community indifference curve? It is the combination of consumption of two commodities so that constant level of satisfaction is maintained in the nation or country. This is the only difference in the nation or country. Other things are same for the individual indifference curve, but it is with respect to the nation. It is with respect to the country. Hmm, nothing else. Okay. So what are the properties of the community indifference curve? It is downward sloping. There should be a single word, downward sloping. Higher indifference curve means higher the level of satisfaction. It is convex to origin as there is diminishing MRS. Two indifference curves cannot intersect each other. With change in income distribution, slope of indifference curve will change. So IC of one income distribution can intersect IC of another. Okay. If you change the income distribution, obviously in the economy, if the income distribution is changed, so the preference will also change. And that is why you can draw a different set of indifference curves for different income distribution. Okay. And if it is for different situation, so they can intersect, just like indifference curve of two individuals. Here, indifference curve for two different income distribution. Hmm. Now, what is compensation principle? Compensation principle is very similar to our Pareto optimality type of thing. Compensation principle is saying that in the economy, if it is possible, let's say you have distributed the income, Now, given this income distribution, if you can see that better off position, the better off people of the economy, they can improve the welfare of the rest of the economy, then mm, the economy should do it. Okay, so you are compensating, as you are in the better off position, you are compensating the rest of the people. Okay, and that should be done in the economy, then only welfare can improve, then only the social indifference curve, you can reach on the higher social indifference curve or community indifference curve like this. And the restrictive assumption is that when you are doing this, you have to understand that there will be no there will be no intervention. Okay? There should not be any government intervention. There should not be any outside the economy intervention. Nothing will be there. Okay, but if you can do that, if you can apply, if you can use this compensation principle in your economy, you can move to the higher community indifference curve. Okay, so the problem with these properties, you can ask me the problems with the community indifference curve properties. Any problem? These things are there in your textbook. You can check it.
Ma'am, no problem. Can you please keep it till here for today?
Yes, what you are talking?
Can you please keep it till here for today?
Oh, can I stop? That is what your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I can stop. I don't have any problem to continue, but I don't have any problem to stop as well. Okay, so I will continue from the next week. Yes, it's 2 minutes left. I should stop. Mm. So we will continue from there, the standard trade model. Okay, in the next class. Actually, so many things I have to discuss na in the class. When the class is trying to, when the class is beginning to open, I have opened a lot of PPTs. I was thinking, okay, I have to discuss this, then after this, then after this, but I cannot. Anyway.